welcome to SMPTE. I'm here with Rod Bogart, who has a long history in this industry. He has been with Pixar, ILM, HBO, and you are also getting an award this week, which we'll get to in a quick second.
Yeah.
But you are also one of the founders or developers of OpenEXR.
This is true.
Which has helped enable HDR workflows. Can you talk about developing it and how that sort of moved along?
Yeah, so OpenEXR became open by being an open source release back in 2003. And that came from ILM, where people previously at ILM, starting in 2000, on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, were the first people that used that file format in-house. And then we decided to release it. And it immediately got a lot of uptake in different products, and people put it into their systems as a way of embodying floating point data rather than the old integer data that was in something like a DPX. And it could represent many more stops than you were able to do previously. And it was good for visual effects because, as I often say, images are for two things. They're for looking at and they're for making more images. And OpenEXR was really great for making more images because it gave you the range that you needed and the ability to flexibly move things up and down without sort of exposing the quantization that had happened in some other file.
Okay.
So it was very popular for that. And then since then has really taken off as kind of the de facto file format for HDR because it embraced the notion that things could be brighter than 1.0 if you will.
Okay.
And that was a big deal, and certainly is now that HDR is popular.
Sure. Now is that, so the award that can you tell us the name of the award that you're getting?
The award is called the Kalmus Medal, and it is delivered or presented by Technicolor and associated with SMPTE. And it's presented for people who try to maintain artistic intent all the way to the viewer or the consumer. I jokingly refer to it as Color Scientist of the Year, but it really kind of isn't, but it's close. And a lot of the people who have been recipients are that type of individual. People who've been involved in color science in post-production or in production, helping out getting the content to the viewer in the best way possible.
Okay, and well, you haven't stopped, so you're still going, and you're working on something called the White Gamut study group? We
did, yeah, that's actually been a while. That was back in 2006, but it's the other part of that the award acknowledges.
Okay.
So the award acknowledges the work on OpenEXR and the development of that, and also the work of the White Gamut study group. And the reason we did that work at all is back when digital cinema was first starting, people got very concerned about whether or not the white point of their movie could be represented in digital. And would it look like film, or would they be allowed to make it intentionally not look like film? And the choices for what your white point were kind of weirdly restricted and limited according to the way that the spec was written. And this was a result that we didn't know going into the process. We were trying to figure out what people wanted and what they did, and that's why it was a study group. And so we learned a great deal about what people intended to have as their white point. And then from that, we also discovered that the spec in and of itself, as written in the DCI spec and then the SMPTE spec, was restrictive and would have only allowed you one specific white point at the brightest possible value. But all deployed projectors didn't make that mistake. They didn't quite implement the spec until one vendor did. And then when they did implement what the spec did, their stuff looked weird and wrong. But they were the most correct people because they'd implemented what the spec said. So in the study group, we were able to determine what the problems were and what changes should be made to the spec to allow a group of white points to be definable, and that includes from D65 to D55, the kind of things that people prefer, including also the calibration white that is used for digital cinema. And embodying all of that in the new spec helped make this one manufacturer look similar to everybody else, and also made the projectors that were already out there even be more correct, because they were kind of luckily doing the right thing, but not for all content. And in particular, the Pixar content that we were creating at the time didn't always end up looking right on the deployed projectors too until we made this change.
Amazing. And again, as I said, you haven't stopped. Now you're working on ACES Next?
Yes, so my current volunteer aspect is that I'm a vice chair for ACES. And ACES is going through a regeneration of, we have one ACES 1.0 that is out there, and now we're doing ACES 2.0 if you're a nerd, or ACES Next if you want to do some marketing speak.
Sure.
And where we're really engaging with the community and ensuring that everybody has a say in how the next version of ACES comes out. So we are just at SMPTE putting out our new model of working groups, virtual working groups, and our technical advisory councils that will allow us to implement different features and changes to ACES in a way that involves everyone in the industry, as well as putting it all in a public, sort of more open sourcey type space on the area called ACES Central.
Gotcha. Very cool. Thank you, Rod, for stopping by. Congratulations on getting the medal.
Yes, thanks.
And we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it.